Good evening. If I can come in to explain something.
Of course.
As you just mentioned regarding Estefania and many others who have been through the what we call re-enhancement trials, that they don't eat. One thing we'll discuss in the future teaching is these people have been through the system once. So if we, let's say, if they live in this space all the time, they will not eat anymore. If they go through the system once every 2-3 days, they will not eat anymore because they take from the system. And this is how the system is set. And we see that in a coming future to be the trend. When people say they have no appetite or they haven't eaten for 2-3 days, we got the human body, so we need to replenish the energy. Or we teach the soul to replenish the energy. And the way we expanded the soul to feed the body, the reason they don't eat is because when the soul expands beyond the boundary of the physicality, the system we have is set to feed what the physicality needs. So we feed the soul feeds the physicality, and that's why they don't eat anything for 2-3 days. And so if you live continuously in this environment, if you go through the system half an hour a day, it's just like you sitting on the dining table and eating. Replenish the energies to the soul feeds till the body or the soul of the man learns to feed. We are in that stage, but we have to explain gradually, step by step, that people understand by example, by showing. When you hear people say they have no interest in eating, or they haven't eaten, or they don't eat as much as they use, because the system is set to bring that. And we always said these systems are there to sustain life in the space. And that's why if you bring them back once a week, twice a week, they'll never eat again. Because this is what we always said. We have to teach the soul to feed the physicality. Now with the system, we expand the soul beyond the physicality. We feed it through the same plasma system as is the life of the soul. Instead of the way you dream and you remember, now we feed and the soul feeds the physicality. And that's the reason they don't eat. It's not just coincidental, it's set up to do that. And in different ways, we have already said there'll be places people just go once a week, once a day, just to recharge, to extend the energy to what the soul needs to feed the physicality. It's in the pattern. It's not something new that is going to come out. So if people tell you they don't eat, you have to understand why. Even now we got worse with the people who actually in the past week have been, the fact is much, much stronger. We had a couple of ladies on Tuesday, by accident or coincidental, they came back on Wednesday to give their reports back in writing, and they came down and something came out in the middle of the conversation, says, I haven't eaten anything since yesterday and I don't feel hungry. It's not coincidental. We set out to show man can live without killing. Now you see it, you hear it, that's how it is.
So many of these weight reduction programs, which is a huge, huge business and sort of a roller coaster cycle where they lose it and they gain it back and then they lose it again. And it's it must be a very miserable,
it's a psychosomatic.
Yeah.
This is psychologically they can't. So when you satisfy their soul, Psychometric doesn't exist because you feed the psychology of it.
And just the way you said the universal unit was gaining weight, you said you may lose 10 or 15 kilos, but then you'll gain it back, but without eating somehow, just through the fields, you won't look like a toothpick, I would say.
No, but it's all the Chinese references we have because a huge number of Chinese have done this now. And they all lost 10, 15% at the beginning and then stabilize. The body learns how to manage. We see a lot of people have not understood how much knowledge we have gained in past 4 or 5 weeks. And the more knowledge seekers come in, the more we learn, the more we add to. If you come on the group which is coming on Tuesday and Wednesday this week, the systems are more or less different than last week. If you've been one of the knowledge seekers who've been through the trial, next few days you should receive a communication from the Keshe Foundation Center from Linz that we are calling upon all of you to attend the meeting in the next few days on Zoom. But before we go into the transmutation, we understand what has happened to you since you left. What has changed psychologically? What has changed physically? What has changed in relationship to the others? What happened with yourself? And these are the things we want to know. And this is where then we know, as I said, till last Tuesday, you had to take everything off when you came to the enhancement center. Now we allow you with jewelry and whatever, watches or glasses to go in because now we learn we can transmute.
It's just amazing the release of juggernaut of knowledge being released. I always thought, and I usually practiced, if I wasn't hungry, I wouldn't eat. I didn't need to eat because I wasn't hungry. So I think if we lose, and the hunger is a loss or a need of energy, is that where the hunger, pains, or the desire to, I know some is emotional, but where does this feeling hungry come from? Lack
Is
of
a need to
energy.
replenish, need to survive. That's where it comes from. Need to survive, need to be connected. So we can always connect to something else than actually eating. Psychologically, if we can create our cancers, if you understand this psychologically, we can feed ourselves too. But what do we feed that doesn't become a cancer? Psychosomatic feeding is not something abnormal. This is the reason why we released the energy units this week. This is part of the flight system. This, what you see, what you see in the big box is something we're already using inside the flight system. With the energy system, what you see in the gases is because we use it in systems, in the flight section.
Have the space agencies approached the foundation in any shape or form to solve their?
We talked to a couple of agencies, yes, in a direct way. But you have to understand there is a very big push for Keshe not to come into public. Huge push.
We covered today.
Yeah, huge push. Now Vatican is bending backwards. because especially since last week, when we have people who can literally write by will, the color of the hair, the shape, the word spoken. And now next time when we know these people, we invite them back in. We want to know historically what happened. Were the people who just saw Christ, or were the people who been in touch with him on a regular basis? We want to know more.
Mr. Keshe, you said there's no such thing as reincarnation, there's transmutation. Now, when we transmute, would we appear almost identical as we do? I know you said there was an option to maybe change something.
You have to appear in a condition of survival. We have no tailors, we have no suit makers to make a suit for you to live on the moon or on Mars or in another planet. Or as you said, the mermaid in the water. From the second you leave one system to go to appear somewhere else. So body in transmutation accepts conditions of the manifestation.
But if you're going from New York to China or vice versa, wherever you're going on this planet, let's say, would I have the option of changing my hair color,
yep,
my eye color, keeping it exactly as is?
As is, or you decide. We are testing this. We are testing this, not part of the trial. People to speak languages, people to go to places, and number of people go to places. Same people to go to the same places. And we see now can be done, because it's important. If you're sending 10 people from London to Washington, 10 people have to end up in Washington. So all have to accept that they want to go to Washington. And now we have tested it. There is a specific way to do it. Yes, you can get people to do at the same time the same thing, and when they come out of the system, they tell you what they did the same thing together. You can say you influence one person, but you cannot influence two people to be at the same time, same place, and tell you where they've been with it. Now we can be that. It's like you get a jumbo jet with 250 people going from London to Washington. All want to go to Washington, doesn't matter where they go afterwards. Now our systems are tuned to do that. It's not one person anymore.
When you refer to the vertical unit, would there, I know you can take, you can go places in the vertical unit on the soul level, but would there need to be a unit in the point of, let's say, appearing or landing, or is this just part of the learning process?
Part of learning process. This is purely part of training process. The systems are getting made now in the Keshe Foundation laboratories.
Just a point of clarification, Dean brought up that there could be a meeting, or he thought there was definitely a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for the third blueprint teaching.
No,
okay.
Not. We said when we are ready, we announce it.
Okay.
We one of our teams very busy with one lot, and the other team is totally busy with another, and the group is, we have to, when we show the third blueprint sometime maybe this week, it will be very comprehensive for governments. That blueprint is not for knowledge seekers as such.
Alex was mentioning earlier that he thought the,
Let me,
sorry. Yes.
let me to exactly what we're going to do, because we know what the others are planning to do. If you remember, when we opened the first exhibition center in Linz, people from Belgium personally called the owners of the theater, what do you call it, the exhibition center. They called the military, they called the police, they called the mayors, they called the member of the parliaments, they called everyone to stop the Keshe Foundation. And in some ways, they called some ambassadors not to come and the rest of it, which was very unusual for Keshe Foundation to do. This time, when we show the energy systems, we give the government's link to be present in the presentation. Embassies, ambassadors, governments, world leaders will be given a link. You tell ambassador, don't watch. You understand? So we cut the leg of the, what I call, godforsaken Belgians. They tell us it's a woman calling. 2 terabytes of information, trying to stop the technology to go out. This time, when we are ready, world ambassadors, the way we used to send invitation to, I personally invite to go to the link and watch. You tell ambassador, don't watch, seeing a system producing hundreds of kilowatts of energy and gases per liters or whatever. And then at this position we are in. Let them do. They can't do any more damage to themselves. The third is set for governments. And when we do it professionally. With Corona, people don't want to move, call the embassy, this is a fraud. What we say, the proof of pudding is eating it. We'll get involved all the knowledge seekers with all we need to do is to link up through and given to be seen. Then we see the change. It goes to all the newspapers and everybody else on televisions to watch. Let them call. And this is when the third one is ready, when our teams are ready fully, and we show. You got to realize what was shown on Thursday has a huge, massive implication. What was shown on Monday in Tehran, both sections have a huge application implication. And third time, you will see. We have over 20 million people unemployed in Western Europe and plan to be unemployed in Western Europe in next year to 2 years because of the cut of gases by Russia. 20 million jobs will disappear. Gas purchase from Russia was 175 2 years ago, before COVID. Now it's as 108. Expected to come as low as 65.
Right.
Then,
yeah. Sorry.
then we can see the damaging coming. New technologies are needed to create new jobs. Secondly, make each nation independent from the supply of fuel. We'll see. The third one will be fundamentally not for knowledge. The third one is fundamentally for governments. We used to invite ambassadors and what I call these hooligans. They called, they went, they delivered, they went to see the Iranian ambassador, delivered documents to them to show, and nothing cut. Now it's easy. Nobody moves anywhere. Anyway, you tell ambassador, don't watch a Zoom. Tell the government officials, don't watch a Zoom where it's shown. You can have a no more need to the oil wells, no more need to the energy power stations, and it's all there, they can see it. The state of Belgium has to be changed, shared back into pre-Napoleon time between France, Holland, and Germany, or become a state under what we call democracy. And then all the people in it who have a pedophile cases and a long-term association with it have to be brought, locked up, and put away. There's a lot we haven't disclosed what is going on in Belgium. A lot. We'll bring it to public when we have the position to bring it to public. But energy and electricity has to be. We got to listen to understand why we need to get Belgium out of this equation. It's very simple. Those of you who don't understand or you don't know how EU operates. For Keshe technology to be accessed by all Europeans to be implemented, it needs ratification by all members. If one member objects to it, it cannot be ratified to be used. And we know Belgium will not go with it because they lost it. This is what they wanted to control the West. The smallest brain king in the world wanted to control the biggest technology in the world. It didn't work. They thought it's Congo, they can kill everybody till get it. Go and read how Belgians conquered Congo. They killed more or less half of the nation. And they thought by killing Fabio and me, they can stop it. It didn't work. So we have to change Belgium and bring it out of this situation. And then it will be ratified to be used by the whole of EU. And as long as there is such a position, it will not happen. This is part of the European Community principle. We've seen their biggest spy deep-rooted in Keshe Foundation, now gone back. And you've seen how Keshe Foundation rapidly grows. We have to bring the technology that the way we do for you. As a person, you become self-sufficient for energy, for food, for medicine, for whatever. The plan of the Keshe Foundation is the same for all the nations. It's another body. Every nation has to be self-sufficient for energy, gas, and everything else. And there is no organization, no technology except what we have, which we offer, which gives that opportunity. Then nations grow on the strength of their intelligence, on what they have. We saw 12-15% growth in Africa, and then it came to a halt because they don't have the power supplies. They don't have the finances to buy the energy from Middle East, Arab countries, and the rest. With this technology, they have access the same as the Chinese do and the same as the Europeans do. The implication of what we show from Tehran and in what we call Austria in past week is huge. It's absolutely huge. Independent resources. It's like every nation have its own gas well. Every nation has its own power generator the way they want. You don't need to spend billions on nuclear power station. You don't need to spend billions on what we call power stations. In the future, the way it's going to happen, which we think 90% we are correct, is the way now you buy a house. It has to have certain things as standards. Now having a power generator and a gas generator in it becomes standard. And the governments will charge you like the way they charge you for telephone, what they call television nowadays. You have it or not, you pay for it. It's a car taxes. You pay for taxes for a car, doesn't matter what car you drive. They will tax houses by the plot, by the building, by how many people use it, how many people live in it. There's no need for cabling anymore. There's no need for pipelines anymore. There's no need for fuel stations anymore. There's no need for a lot of other things which we take for granted, because now every house supplies its own electricity and it's pre-packed part of the construction. Next 5 or 10 years, what we've shown with the gas production and energy is a package. If you put the enhancement unit, which was shown in Tehran, with the generator, which was shown in Austria this week, and connect the system into one, you will see that 1 kilowatt will become 5 kilowatt. So we don't need to run that much the generator. If we go to the process of the small gas production, which generates electricity through a special gas turbine, then what do you have? Charging your battery. You run the power, what do you call it, gas supply for about half an hour a week, which costs you 10 cents. You have electricity for a week. And you don't need to be anywhere. You can be on the moon, you can be in the depth of the ocean. Now you're independent. The implication of it is huge. We provide the electricity to generate, but the same electricity, if it goes around the house through the enhancement unit, then you saw it 4-to-1, 5-to-1. Then you understand why we introduced the two systems. The game of energy and what we call, what the whole humanity was taken to ransom is over. Literally is over.
You indicated there wasn't enough time between now and the winter time in Europe to actually build and manufacture these systems. You talked about it being taught on the internet or on the television. This is
Me-
something, go ahead.
Meetings with officials and governments in the next days. And the position is very desperate in Europe. Even Europeans, most of them cannot understand how desperate the situation is. We get hit by the next cycle of Corona. We get hit by gas shortages which are coming up. European economy will crumble.
So, Keshe, this morning I was looking at 3 different articles talking about the shortage of gas oil and the sump oil for diesel engines. They need 2 special additives which they have been discontinued for the last over a year, and it'll take over a year to be able to start their production again for these additives.
I think Mr. Keshe answered that in the last workshop. I believe Rick brought that question.
Rick brought that up. We have access to produce gasoline. It's not something new for Keshe. We have to see how it happens, how things take shape in Europe, and how we can change the taking of the shape in coming weeks and days. It's Keshe Foundation team, even now, late into hours of night and morning, are working, making sure these things are done, and we can bring things on what we call in the arena.
So as you indicated, even if someone did have a lot of money and they could afford to pay 17 times what the price was in the recent past, from 100 to 1,700 a unit, the material wouldn't be there for them to purchase. This is part of the problem.
Can you explain?
Well, I know we measure the gas in a cubic meters or something along that line. I was hearing someone said it was $100 a 1,000-meter measurement in Europe, and now it's $1,700. But if it's not there, even if you have the 1,700 to pay for it, you can't buy it because it doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. This is the problem. Last 2 years ago, Europe bought 175 billion gas from Russia. 2021, 2020, they bought 108 billion due to Corona and other factors. This year, most of the people don't have the money to pay. We put initially to buy a generator 3,000 reservation. We will not deliver now. We take that off. Has to be a full payment. We guarantee delivery on the time and the space we say, because the demand is there. Governments have to decide. And all the dealing is with Keshe Foundation, not with the Keshe manufacturer. It's intellectual rights. The Keshe Foundation arms show the product of the intellectual rights. A lot of people don't like what's happening, but sometimes some nations have to, as I said, bite the bullet.
Mr. Keshe, hello. I'd like to ask you something. May I? Salomea.
Yes.
Yes. Gas and oil could regenerate.
What do you mean?
To become unlimited.
It is unlimited.
It is unlimited. I knew this.
Every day is produced.
Yeah.
The production of the gas didn't stop as they made us to believe when the dinosaurs died. Every day, millions, billions of tons of oil and gas is added to Earth reserve. On
Yes.
the basis. It's a natural process.
Yeah.
So it doesn't end. It cannot end. As long as we have the oceans, oil and gas is produced.
So they lie us.
They never lied. They
No.
made the story, we believed it. They didn't lie. We like the story.
Mm-hmm.